Hello class, there's only one section that we're going to do for chapter 7, and that is 7.5, and it's all about systems of measurement. I'm doing this video a little bit differently because there's some important things that you need to do in order to do this assignment unless you already know all of your different units of measurement. So what you need to do is go onto the main page here. Which is the myopenmath. Go down to the section 7.5, and on this one you do need to go to the textbook and you need to open this because there's some things on here that you need to have. Okay, so once you do that, scroll down and see here we have the US systems of all the different measurements. We have length, we have volume, we have weight, and we have time. So we need to know these. We need to know that 1 foot equals 12 inches, 1 yard equals 3 feet, 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon, 1 pint equals 2 cups, 1 gallon equals 4 quarts, 1 pound equals 16 ounces, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds, and then 1 minute is 60 seconds, and so forth. So you need to know all of those, or you need to have all these. I suggest writing these down and putting them in your notes so that you can use them. Next is okay, so the metric measurements. Now these are actually a lot easier because they're all in factors of 10. So we have length, mass, and volume. So for length, we have meter equals 100 centimeters, 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters, 1 centimeter equals 0.01 meters. So these are the lengths. The mass, 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, 1 gram is 100 centigrams, 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams, and so forth. And for volume, they're all the same. Kiloliter, hectoliter, decaliter, liter, deciliter, centimeter, millimeter. So for the metric units, the main one is always going to be just the word itself, either meter, gram, or liter. And then 1/10 of that is a deciliter or a deci. 1/100th is a centi. 1/1000th is a milli. And then 10 of them is a deca. 100 is hecto, and 1,000 is kilo. So these you need to know, but you only need to write these once. You just need to write the bases, the kilo, hecto, deca, and then just normal word, deci, centi, milli. And you'll be able to do all these because they're all the same thing. They use the same words for all three. And then the last one, types, or the other type that you'll need to know, are between US and metric. So these we use a lot when we go from inches to centimeters, feet to meters, yards to meters, miles to kilometers, or meters to feet. And then pounds to kilogram, ounce to gram, and kilogram to pound, quart to liter, fluid ounces to milliliters, and liters to quarts. So you need to have all of these in your notes as well. And then we're also going to do some temperature conversions where we have C, which is Celsius, equals 5/9, and then in parentheses F minus 32, and then Fahrenheit is 9/5 C plus 32. So you're going to do a lot with these where you convert from one to another. You can also, if you don't like fractions, for this one here, use F equals 1.8 times C plus 32. And then here, you have C equals F minus 32 all over 1.8. And those will work as well. Whenever I do examples, I use the fractions just because that's what I learned first. So now that we have all of the conversion factors that we're going to use, let's see how to actually use them. Notice also that there are some where it had it going both ways, like pounds to kilograms or kilograms to pounds. On those, because when we're doing the conversions like this from standard to metric, we're rounding. So you're going to get different answers. What I recommend is if you use one of them and it doesn't work, try the other one and it should work. Make sure though that you also follow all the rounding rules that it asks. So the way we're going to do these, let's say that we start with 2 yards and we need to go to feet. Now, that's what the question is going to ask. Now, what our unit conversion was that 1 yard equals 3 feet. So what we're going to do is turn this conversion factor into a fraction and multiply it by what we're given in order to get the units. And we're going to use the fact that 3 divided by 3 equals 1. A divided by A equals 1. In this case, yards divided by yards equals 1. So what we're going to do is cancel our units before we do any of our numbers, and we'll get what the number that we want. Because what we're doing here is just multiplying by a factor of 1, like we did before, to change a fraction. Now we're just changing a unit. So we're going to start with 2 yards. And remember that whenever we have something, that means it's over 1. So we're going to turn this 1 yard equals 3 feet into a fraction so that you see how we start with yards on top. That means we want our yards to be on bottom. So 1 yard's on bottom, 3 feet on top. Now before we do any of the actual math with numbers, let's see, we have yards on top and yards on top. Yards divided by yards is 1, so those cancel. And now our unit that we're left with is feet. And that's what we want our answer to be in, is in feet. So that means we're going to say 2 times 3 equals 6 feet for our answer. So let's do another one that's a little bit longer. Let's say that we have 32 cups and we want to go to gallons. So our units, or our conversion factors that we had were 2 cups equal 1 pint, 2 pints equals 1 quart, and 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So this one's a little more complicated. We have to do a few conversions. So what we're going to do is 32 cups, and see how I start with cups on top. That means my conversion that has cups needs to have cups in bottom. So I'm going to have 2 cups equals 1 pint. So that means I'm going to put my 2 cups on the bottom and my 1 pint on top. And now, so if I want to, I can cancel my cups, because those are no longer there, and I now have pints that I need to cancel. So I can say that 2 pints equals 1 quart. So since I have pints on top, I'm going to put 2 pints on bottom and 1 quart on top. And I can cancel my pints because I have pints on top and pints on bottom. Next, I need to change my quarts into gallons, and I know that 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. I have quarts on top, so that means I need to put quarts on bottom. So 4 quarts on bottom, 1 gallon on top. My quarts, I have quarts on top, quarts on bottom, so those cancel. And now, before I do any of my math, I'm going to look through and see what units I have left. On top, I canceled everything but gallons, and on bottom, I canceled everything, and I want my answer to be in gallons. So now I know I have it set up right. So now what I can do is multiply all my top numbers to each other. So 32 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 32 over, and multiply all my denominators, 2 times 2 times 4, which is 16, and 32 divided by 16 equals 2 gallons. And that will be the answer. So this is one where you do multiple conversions in one problem. Most of them that you're going to do have just one. There are a few that are like this that have the multiple ones. But this is how you do it. Just set it up with your units before you do any of the actual arithmetic, cancel your units that you can, and if you're left with what you want your answer to be in, then you'll have it right. And just multiply all the top numbers to each other, multiply all the bottom numbers to each other, and then divide. Now there are some shortcuts that you can do on these, but this way will be less confusing. So now let's say that we have 2 yards into inches. So we're going to start with 2 yards. And remember that 3 feet equals 1 yard. So here, the yards will cancel. And we have that there are 12 inches per foot. So our feet will cancel. Now all we're left with is inches. And so that's what we want. So we're just going to say 2 times 3 is 6 times 12 equals 72 inches. All right, next, let's say that we have 9 pounds into ounces. Our unit conversion factor is 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So we're going to start 9 pounds. Now since we have pounds on top, we want the conversion factor ones to be on bottom, so 1 pound on bottom. And we have 16 ounces on top. Our pounds cancel. All we're left with is ounces, so we just need to multiply 9 times 16 and get 144 ounces. All right, next, let's say that we have 6 days and turn that into seconds. So we know that there are 24 hours equals 1 day, 60 minutes equals 1 hour, and 60 seconds equals 1 minute. Okay, so now we can start with our 6 days. We have days on top. That means we need them on bottom for our conversion. So 1 day on bottom and 24 hours on top. Since we start with 24 hours on top, we need our hours on bottom. So 1 hour and 60 minutes. And now we have minutes on top, so we need them on bottom. So 1 minute over or under 60 seconds. Now let's cancel the units. We have days on top and bottom, so those are gone. Hours on top and bottom, so those are gone. Minutes on top and bottom, so those are gone. All we're left with is seconds, and that's what we want our answer to be in. So we're going to say 6 times 24 times 60 times 60 and get 518,400 seconds. So in 6 days, there are 518,400 seconds. Okay, so next, let's do one that looks a little bit more complicated. Say we have 33 feet per second, and we want to change that into miles per hour. Okay, so there are 5280 feet equals 1 mile. 60 seconds equals 1 minute. And 60 minutes equals 1 hour. Okay, so to do this, notice how I put unit on top and bottom. If you write it like that, it'll make it a lot easier than if you use a slash. So I'm going to say 33 feet per 1 second. Okay, so now I'm going to change my feet into miles. So I know that I have feet on top, so that means 5280 feet on bottom to 1 mile on top. And now I have seconds on bottom, so I need seconds here, these seconds on top, so 60 seconds over 1 minute. And now I have minute on bottom, and so I need to put my minute on top, 60 minute over 1 hour. Now let's go through and cancel what we can to see if we have everything set up right. We have feet on top and feet on bottom, so those will cancel. We have second on bottom, second on top, so those will cancel. We have minute on top, minute on bottom, so those cancel. So now just looking at our units, we have miles on top, hours on bottom, and that means miles per hour. So that means we have it all set up right. So we're going to say 33 times 60 times 60, and then divide that by the 5280, and we're going to get 22.5 miles per hour, or 22.5 mph. Okay, so that's how you do one that has a fraction like that in it, where something is like feet per second, miles per hour, anything like that. Meters per second, meters per day, something, anything like that. Okay, so next, let's do some where we are converting just the metric system. So 2 meters into centimeters. Remember that there are 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. So we're going to say 2 meters. We have meters on top, so we need our meters on bottom. 1 meter and 100 centimeters. The meters cancel. We're left with centimeters. So now 2 times 100 equals 200 centimeters. Next, let's say we have 6850 milliliters into liters. And there are 1,000 milliliters equals 1 liter. So we start 6850 milliliters. We have them on top, so we need them on bottom now. 1,000 milliliters and 1 liter. Milliliters cancel. So now we have 6850 divided by 1,000 equals 6.850 liters. And that's how you'll do those. All of these are just factors of 10. Either you're going to multiply or divide by 100 or 10 on all of these, or 1,000. Okay, so next, let's say that we have 139 tubs. Each tub needs 145 milliliters of acid. How many liters total do we need? So each tub needs 145 milliliters of acid to clean it, and we have a total of 139 tubs. So we want to know how many liters we need to use. And we have 1,000 milliliters equals 1 liter. So we're going to start out 145 milliliters and 1 liter over 1,000 milliliters. And for that, we need to multiply the 139 tubs, because this is 145 per tub. Okay, so milliliters will cancel, tubs will cancel, and all we're left with is liters. So we're going to say 145 times 139, and then divide by 1,000, and we're going to get 20.155 liters. So that's how you'll do that one. Next are going to be ones where we're changing from standard to metric. So say we have 6 feet, go to meters. Okay, so we know that 1 meter equals 3.28 feet. So we're going to start 6 feet, and we put the 3.28 feet on bottom and 1 meter on top. The feet will cancel, and we are going to get 1.83 meters. Next, let's say we have 142 pounds going to kilograms. So on this one, I noticed that if you use one of the conversion factors, it doesn't work right, but if you use the other one, it will. So I'm going to use the 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. Just use that one. It usually works. Sometimes it doesn't. This is one where if you use the 1 pound equals 0.45 kilograms, you're going to get different answers. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to say 142 pounds. So I'm going to have 2.2 pounds on bottom, 1 kilogram on top. So pounds cancel. So I'm going to have 142 divided by 2.2, and I'm going to get 64.5 kilograms. And one other like this, so let's say we have 5 inches to centimeters, and 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So 5 inches over, okay, so, or times. Now I need inches on top, so put 1 inch on top. And that means the 2.54 centimeters will be on bottom. So the inches will cancel. And I have 5 times 2.54, which is 12.7 centimeters. Another way to remember this is if the unit that you're changing from in the conversion factor, if the number that isn't a 1 is the different unit, that means you're going to multiply. So here we multiplied 5 because the 2.54 isn't 1 and the 1 inch is. We started with inches. If it was the other way around, if we said something, the number of, or 1 centimeter is point whatever inches, then we would be dividing. The last type of questions are temperature conversions. So we have Celsius equals 5/9 times, in parentheses, F minus 32, or Fahrenheit equals 9/5C plus 32. So these are the two equations, or you could use F minus 32 over 1.8 or 1.8C plus 32. Whichever of these is easier for you to remember, use that. So I'm going to start with going from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So if I have 77 degrees Fahrenheit, that means I'm going to use this first formula. So I'm going to have 5/9, and in parentheses, 77 minus 32. 77 minus 32 is 45, so 5/9 times 45. Now I'm going to do the division first. 45 divided by 9 is 5, and then times 5 equals 25 degrees Celsius. And then the next one I'm going to do is going the opposite direction. So I'm going to say, or I'm going to start with 35 degrees Celsius to go to Fahrenheit. So I'm going to say that Fahrenheit equals 9/5 times 35 and then plus 32. Okay, so 35 divided by 5 is 7 times 9 is 63 plus 32. When we add these up, we'll get 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So some numbers to remember. I used one of them here, and this will just make things easy for you. 0 degrees Celsius equals 32 degrees Fahrenheit. 25 degrees Celsius equals 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And 100 degrees Celsius equals 212 degrees Fahrenheit. If you know these three, then you can pretty much figure out if the answers that you get are anywhere close. This first one is the freezing point of water. This is what's called standard temperature in chemistry classes and other science, and this is the boiling point of water. So that is pretty much what's in Chapter 7 for you. Again, you're going to want to have all of your unit conversions written down when you do your assignment and your quiz. And if you just do it step by step, do the units, cancel your units first, and then do all the math, and it makes things easier. Some of you may already know how to do a lot of these. Especially if you do a lot of cooking, you'll be able to do the cups to the quarts, the gallons, and everything. But just take your time with these. They're not really that difficult. The hardest part is setting it up, and that's why I say that if you cancel all of your units before you do any of the arithmetic, you'll get them right. And just remember that all the conversion factors, that something equals something else, turn that into a fraction so that you always have one unit on top and one on bottom that you cancel out, and all that you're left with is what you want your answer to be in.